So somebody just made fun of me because I ordered hot espresso on a hot day in Fresno. I don't think I have the problem. I think you have the problem. Although I will say I got a burger at In-N-Out the other day and I ordered the coffee. I think when you order the coffee at In-N-Out, that says you're of a certain age. Hey everybody, welcome to week 4 of our humble little computer course here in the summer. My name is Brian Baker. You already knew that because you've already heard it 3 times. There have been almost no questions this week, which is either heartwarming or deeply concerning. Regardless, we're just going to start talking about what we have to do this week. We are covering 2 chapters. The first chapter is chapter 6. Chapter 6 is all about computer specs. To an extent, a lot of this doesn't matter. The problem is that I don't know that you guys need computers as much anymore. I know that's kind of an odd thing to say in a computer class, but what I'm saying is that in the next 5 to 10 years, I really think that most people are going to be okay with just computer-like appliances. How many papers are you going to write after school? Probably not very many. You'll probably have a computer for work, but I mean, at home, what you're going to need is something to allow you to watch videos, like an Apple TV or a Google Chromecast. You're probably going to need something to listen to music, right? So you've got your HomePods and your Alexas and whatever the heck, right? You're going to have these appliances that allow you to connect. You're always going to have your phone or some sort of a tablet to look at, YouTube and videos online, surf the web, make purchases on Amazon.com. Although even that you can do by just asking Alexa to do that for you. Point being, I don't know that you're going to need a standalone box for much longer. However, it is still good to know how to spec out a computer because you're probably always going to need one for work. I came from a creative background, so a lot of the people I worked with were graphic designers, videographers. And for them, there was no number high enough, right? There was never a processor fast enough. There was never a hard drive big enough. We would slap hard drives together into RAIDs, and it still wasn't enough. Creative endeavors almost always need as much output as you can get. And that makes sense, right? We were buying workstations. When, a videographer would come up and say, hey, I need to, have the $4,000 Mac Pro and just fully spec it out, put as much RAM. I mean, this was almost a decade ago, and we were putting 32 gigs of RAM into a Mac Pro. It's a ridiculous amount of memory at the time, and it still is a lot of memory, right? But for video, having 2 processors, having that much RAM, it made a difference. I could actually say, hey, this video that would render in 7 hours, we can do it in 1 hour if we had this new piece of hardware. I mean, at that point, $4,000, heck, if they had an $8,000 model, we would have bought it. And that's because when you spend a lot of money to get, a videographer who has a degree in film from USC, you need to supply him or her with the right equipment to do the job, right? You don't want to spend millions of dollars a year on Tom Brady and then not buy him cleats. You're just not going to be getting your money's worth. Anyway, that's chapter 6. Chapter 7 is all about networking. This one is really important. The fact is, most people don't care about your computers anymore, right? Like, your computer as a standalone device doesn't really matter. You can't do a whole lot with it. What you care about is the connection between your computer and other computers. You need to access servers for information, to stream music or movies. You need to be able to purchase stuff online. It's the connections between our devices that matter. For a lot of people, networking ends up becoming a huge career path. There are lots of networking jobs available. Any large company is going to have an on-site staff of networking professionals, or they're going to outsource that job to a company that just does networking. It is a great career path for a lot of students. And it's a career path that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. Most of the time, it doesn't even require an associate's degree. You just have to have the skills. But as a community college instructor, I probably shouldn't tell you that. Stay in school, kids. But if you do want to pursue your education and rise as high as you can, you should probably know that the highest person in any company in the networking arts is usually called the CIO, that is Chief Information Officer, and it's right up there with CFO, CEO, and all of the other executive positions. That's right, we're talking boardrooms and Benzes. You're gonna have to work on your golf game. So yeah, networking is a pretty good career path, however far you want to take it. So that's chapter 6 and 7, quizzes on both. Your discussion for this week is pretty simple. Doesn't involve a whole lot of thought or, opinion, but it's all about internet speeds and network speeds. We're going to share some information about our city. Different companies will provide different speeds to different neighborhoods, just depending on how far you are away from a hub or what they actually means. Literally what they have running through your neighborhood. Is it copper? Is it fiber? There are some neighborhoods with incredible internet speeds. They're usually in the newer parts of town, in like northeast Fresno. There are some parts of Fresno that get terrible internet speeds. They've got old copper connections. The longer your signal has to go through copper, the slower it's going to be. And even if you're getting sort of, oh, I've got the new whatever FiOS fiber optic network, yeah, but it's fiber optic to a point, and then once it's in your neighborhood, it switches to copper. Plus, that's just one type of network. We've got cell phone towers that provide connection. We've got all sorts of things that provide connection. You are paying for a certain speed of internet, but are you actually getting it? Since this week has been all about computer specs and about networking, it makes sense to try to benchmark some networks here in Fresno. So what I want you to do is use some software that's available from the App Store, whatever App Store you happen to have, or just in a web browser, speedtest.net. Speedtest.net essentially runs some different types of sort of packets, just sending packets back and forth, and then testing how long it takes, what the latency is, and how many packets you can get in a second, right? It's going to benchmark how fast your network actually is. And those internet speeds are going to be different. They're affected by a lot of different things. The neighborhood you live in, the time of day. If you use Comcast, for instance, that type of network, the way they have it set up, it will slow down the more users are on the network. So if you're, let's say, trying to download something at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, you're competing with all of that traffic from the actual cable programs people are watching in prime time. That means that you're going to get slower speeds than you would at, let's say, 2 in the morning. It's just the way the network works. In fact, one of my favorite tests, you should go out to River Park on a Friday or Saturday night and just use your cell signal, your LTE on your phone, and use speed test. It is miserably slow. There are far too many people in River Park on a Friday or Saturday night. And they're all connecting to the computer. They're all uploading their Instagram photos or whatever they're doing. It's just bogging down the network, and you're going to get way slower speeds on a Friday or Saturday night at River Park than you would on, let's say, a Monday afternoon. And that's why we benchmark. We want to see what is the actual speed in real world circumstances. Are you getting what you're paying for? If you're paying for a speed boost through whatever your internet company is that actually worth it? Is this company actually delivering what they're promising you? And if they're not, maybe you should switch to a different company. Granted, there are 2 companies that provide internet access in Fresno because monopolies and yada yada. So, you don't have a whole lot of options. But that's your discussion for this week. Instructions in Canvas. Hopefully most of you have finished up your Excel labs from last week. There are no labs this week. Instead, we're doing the practical exam for Excel. So the practical exam for Excel will work a lot like the practical exam for Word. You will download an Excel file along with some instructions, and then you will make changes to that Excel file based on the instructions, and then when you're done, you'll upload it for grading. Excel, again, is not as intuitive as Word. Word and PowerPoint are very visual. You're trying to get something to kind of look the way it is. Excel is all about calculation. And so just remember, if a couple pieces of advice as you're doing your Excel practical. The first one is that it makes sense to do things in order. Remember, the whole point of Excel is that you have numbers that are created from formulas that you put into the cell. And those formulas are taking values from other cells. So if you, let's say, I don't know how to do step 4, I'm going to skip that and just move on to step 5. Well, you may be creating formulas in other parts of the spreadsheet that don't actually get values now because you didn't get the earlier values that those values would be based on. So point being, it makes sense for the Excel practical, probably more so than the Word or PowerPoint, to do the steps in order. If you're going through and you don't know how to do step 7, don't skip to step 8 and then go back. Say, okay, at this point I should probably pause what I'm doing, go back to the labs, find that skill, remember how to do it, then go back to the practical and finish. Step 7 before moving on. It makes more sense to do the Excel in order. The other thing is that just like the Word, you're going to get a PDF that will show you what the Excel practical is supposed to look like. Here's the thing, for Word, that's super helpful. For PowerPoint, it's super helpful. For Excel, it's going to cause a few of you, because it happens every single semester, you are just going to type in the numbers into the cell because you see what that's supposed to look like. But remember, you're being graded on your ability to use Excel. You're being graded on the formulas that you put into those cells, not just the numbers that appear. So even if it looks right, you're still going to get no points because you put a number into the cell rather than the formula that will calculate the number. Ideally, what you do is you put in the formula and then you'll see like, oh, hey, look, it says this number that matches what it has on the PDF. I know I got my formula right. And if you didn't, then kind of go back and check to make sure that you're doing your formulas correctly. So that's my 2 pieces of advice. 1, do the steps in order. If you don't know how to do something, figure out how to do it before moving on. And secondly, don't just try to match the PDF, the image of what it's supposed to look like when you're done, because you're going to lose points. You need to actually know how to put in those formulas. And that's it for week 4. I am probably going to head out of here and go check out a movie. So you should do the same because it's summer and that's what people do in summer. Have a great week. I will see you online.